Systemic power was particularly relevant in the case study in Peru, and was the driver of the power relationships between many stakeholder groups, including between men and women, local communities and regional government, between NGO and the private sector. And to understand power relationships, we need to understand the systemic power. This systemic power is really complex and is embedded into social, political, and economic settings, and is related to patriarchy, structural racism, post-colonialism, and neoliberal policies. So, I think the key point in the case study in Peru is to understand how systemic power asymmetries come from a legacy from the colonial times, because during the Spanish conquest in the 16th century, a system of extractivism and resource control was established. And in this system, the local communities, indigenous communities were marginalized. And we can still observe this today. Those indigenous communities face structural racism and exclusion from decision processes. And very often their knowledge system is not recognized. And the visions and worldviews of people with a more Western-oriented background, let's say, dominates the visions and the worldviews of local communities. So the colonial legacies are very important to understand when we want to deal with systemic power, but we need also to understand the legal and economic systems. For instance, the systemic power of cities or agribusinesses, often backed by state policies that have a huge effect on the way decisions are made on the management of natural resources. These systemic power asymmetries have a lot of implications in a participatory process. They often lead to unequal participation, where the voices of, for example, local communities are overlooked. And this lack of recognition reinforces existing asymmetries. So as a result, it's really difficult to make those power asymmetries change, because it's really embedded in a systemic way. And so those systemic power asymmetries, they reduce the diversity of perspective. They lead to bias or ineffective outcomes. And also they lead to negative consequences for the marginalized people. And finally, one of the consequences of systemic power asymmetries is that they result in other forms of power asymmetries, visible, hidden, and invisible.